You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Dankman. The Chronology of Water is a new movie that dives into the story of a woman's life told through scattered memories. It's the first feature film directed by Kristen Stewart, and it tackles heavy themes that the protagonist experiences firsthand, like sexual abuse and drug addiction. But it also explores the beauty in that life, like the escape she finds in competitive swimming, which lands her a college scholarship, and later a passion for storytelling that she discovers in a creative writing class. The Chronology of Water may be a work of art, but it isn't a work of fiction. It's adapted from the real life story of Lidia Yuknavitch, an Oregon author who published a memoir by the same title in 2011. The film is screening at SIFF on January 30th and February 1st, and Lidia Yuknavitch is here with me now, author of The Chronology of Water and many other books, including her most recent memoir, Reading the Waves, which came out last year. Lydia, thank you very much for sitting down with me.
My complete and total pleasure. You're in my home territory.
Amazing. Yes, we are. So before we talk about the film, I'd just love to hear a bit about, how your path to writing has been. Memoir, I would imagine, is a format that takes some mental preparation. It takes some work, and maybe even if I may project, might be a little painful at times. Does it flow easily for you, memoir, or was it always a natural format for you?
Oh God, no. It's not a natural format at all. And the two things that sort of opened a portal for me into this kind of writing were uh, trauma, in that I didn't know it, but I was holding too much in and I was holding on too hard. And a dare. I was in a writing group at a certain point in my life with Chuck Palahniuk, and we were walking to our cars after workshop one day, and he said, I hate memoirs, but if you wrote one, I would read it. And it was
Wow.
this kind of like brother sister dare. And it pissed me off that he said that. So, the dare kind of lit my pilot light. But once the material started coming out of me in these pieces, these fiery little pieces, at that point I had no choice. I couldn't stop. And this world came spilling out of me. And I had to get a therapist immediately.
Oh, that's a great story. Just to have a little bit of anger lighting the fire, and then to have it all just like burst forth. You've also written novels, and that includes the science fiction post-apocalyptic tale The Book of Joan from 2017. um, is narrative fiction freeing? Is it nice to not have to worry about reconciling your memory with somebody else's, or how does it compare to
I
memoir?
love that question. I love what you just said. It's entirely freeing. And what I've discovered in fiction is that my life material can play out as different characters and places and themes, and I much prefer it. It is a magical realm. It's also very transformational inside fiction writing. But the other thing I have learned is that fiction and nonfiction are always in conversation with each other. And so they inform each other, or they make a helix with each other in my life in particular. So those two art forms sort of can't exist without each other. But I didn't know that till I learned it.
Has there ever been a point at which you're writing a novel and a character or a scene is taking shape, and it triggers like a new understanding of something in your life, or something that you didn't even realize was on your mind, and it's coming out in the process of writing?
Every single time. Every single novel has rearranged my entire life. When I was writing the Book of Joan, I started with a phrase I received as a child in a dream where Joan of Arc literally visited me when I was around 13. Like this, like it didn't seem like a dream. It seemed like she showed up, only no earphones. And she said, "No one's going to save you." And I kind of carried that. phrase and sentence and visitation in my body until I was wise enough to attempt to write this novel. And that character was born from that small seed. But yeah, I mean, all the fiction I've ever written has illuminated for me that there are story paths, and there's this place called story space where no matter who you are or what's happening to you, you can move the story around, or you can walk around it in a 360 and change where you're standing compared to what happened to you and change your point of view. So fiction and storytelling space are entirely transformational to me, and every act of fiction has changed my life.
I feel like you're just rewiring things in my brain as I'm listening to you saying that. Just the idea of looking at a story as a three-dimensional space and being able to manipulate it.
Right?
Um, Maybe this is a logical flow into my next question, which is about your time as a student of Ken Kesey. Um, just in terms of mind expandingness, obviously the author of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and a key figure in that creative psychedelic literary and film scene in the 1960s. Younger folks could see the electric Kool-Aid acid test for more information on that. But you were at the University of Oregon as a student.
I
What was
was.
that experience, that time? How did it shape you as a creative, as an author, as a person?
Yeah, I was a terrible student until I wasn't. I had been flunking out of colleges by the time I arrived at University of Oregon. Um, and I was taking classes there because I was trying to claw my way back into life after the death of my daughter, which talk about losing your marbles or rearranging your reality. And so I was taking classes and I was an undergraduate, but my friend Meredith Wadley Suter was a graduate student. And she was in this graduate MFA class where the students were going to write a collaborative novel with Ken Kesey for an entire year and live together. And Meredith talked me into coming to class with her and just kind of demanding that I be able to take the class with them, even though it was a broken rule for sure. But Kesey didn't care about that.
I would imagine he doesn't care.
No, and I have to say, not only was it an extraordinary segment of my life, because talk about something to stumble into, right? I mean, my God. But when I witnessed the film, that's a really great sequence in the film too. Jim Belushi. I mean, I got chills watching Jim Belushi do a Kesey act. I would have thought he was, no act to follow, but I got chills.
Well, that brings us to this moment where you are able to see the Chronology of Water, your 2011 memoir, on the screen. First, how did the idea of the adaptation or the project take shape? I mean, did Kristen Stewart just call you up one day, or what were the steps that brought it to the screen?
She didn't call me up, but she did send me a wily email.
Wiley, why?
Well, I heard her talking about it the other night, and she said, I have a certain kind of life where I could just ask my people, can you get Lidia Yuknavitch's email? And they just did. And so I just emailed her. I'm listening to her, having received the email. uh, and it was surreal getting an email from Kristen Stewart. I thought I was being punked, of course, because, why would that happen? But the more I read the email, it was in this strange language. I'm a little bit like Jack Kerouac language, like fragments and stutters and intensity that was so moving to me. It bypassed my intellectual brain or sensors or filters and went straight in. So she had me at that email, whether she knows it or not, because I love language and I love it best when language happens to you. And it was happening to me reading her describe why she had to make this movie. And she was like, "You can't give it to Hollywood." And I'm like, wasn't this woman in Twilight? But she was at a different place in her life where
Yeah.
she saw something she wanted to make, which was a piece of art. And so she was explaining to me how I couldn't just give it to Hollywood. And I heard in her enthusiasm what it felt like when I was younger and wanting to write it. Like I heard an echo, um, and it was very clear. And I thought, this is the one.
Hmm. It makes sense that she would be a fan of your writing and then reach out to you in that way with sort of a more experimental form.
Totally.
Because I would imagine that she wants to build your trust because I mean, the chronology of water is, told in not like a linear format. We've got like, non-concurrent memories and fragments and long, like stream of consciousness passages. It's a complex kind of storytelling. And so, for you to trust somebody to put that on screen, they have to kind of, show you their ability to kind of grapple with that material, right?
You described that perfectly from my point of view. And this is how I think artists find each other, because you recognize each other as fellow creatures of some sort, and the language you speak starts sounding similar instead of dissonant. The world is hard for me, but when I meet other artists who speak a language I understand, it goes straight into my heart, straight into my body. Your favorite art in life does that, I think. And that's what happened across time and space. This strange portal opened up between us. This is just me describing what happened. I don't know what she was thinking, but that's how it felt to me. Like, oh, you better step into that because someone's knocking and this someone understands your weirdness and your language. So go see what happens.
I mean, there's so much intimacy in your memoir, and we have touched on it a little bit, but I mean, the material involves abuse that you suffered, your experience delivering a stillborn baby. I mean, these things are the most personal things that could possibly be experienced and brought to an audience. Um, how was that process of kind of letting it go in some ways to allow Kristen and her team to take over that material?
It really matters that it was Kristen and her team, for one thing, because of the earlier answer I just gave. But another thing is, so many of us who've been through trauma and struggle and difficulty or oppression or repression, um, nobody ever asks us what the cost or violence is of having to hold it in, of staying silent, of not telling what happened, of not, speaking to our own embodied experiences and giving story space to these violences that have happened. And so, from my point of view, it's more difficult to hold it in too long, and that'll eat you alive from the inside out, than it is to find beautiful forms of expression where you can share it and disperse it with other humans who get it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that you saw the movie, or I understand you saw the movie for the first time recently. Can you take me to that moment when you're sitting and getting a chance to see it for the first time and what's going through your mind as you watched it?
Sure. I mean, I asked Kristen if it was possible to arrange a private screening because I wanted to see it in a kind of, cocoon. But I also asked her if she would come to Portland and see it with me. And so she did arrange a private screening. This was 1 week ago. So I'm still, dissembled, and I'm still trying to process what just happened because it was phenomenal. But anyway, she arranged this screening. I brought a couple trusted friends. She brought her squad of women who helped make the movie, including Dylan and Maggie from Nevermind Pictures. And they sat a few rows behind us while we watched it. And so she witnessed every reaction I had, and every reaction I had was loud and physical because I was in a private screening. So I knew I could say anything I wanted to. I could move however I wanted. I could punch the air however I wanted. I could yell bad words if I wanted to, or sing, or, scream. So I was just having this free, physical, visceral experience the entire movie. I laughed, I cried, I swore, I experienced rage and joy and laughter and pain and beauty. And it would not be a hyperbole to say it was among the greatest art experiences of my life, not because it had something to do with me, but because I witnessed an artist shaping material based on an experience she had with another piece of art so profoundly. And this is what I think art in the world is when it's really functioning, that it moves someone else to make art. And in that way, we keep sort of the motion of art going in the world for other people. So it was just a zenith of experience. I'm surprised I didn't pee my pants.
I have to say, that must have been quite a ride. I mean, for just, for you personally, it also must have been a ride for Kristen and the filmmakers, because watching you watch it in that setting, that's a pretty unique opportunity to kind of have that double experience. So if you watch it, yourself, and you're seeing yourself experience things, you're also seeing this actor portraying you, Imogen Poots, who I have to say I've seen her in other things, and she is exceptional. Like the things that
Agreed.
she can play on her face, I think she is just a standout. And so seeing just the trailer so far, what I've been able to see, I can tell, that like this is a tour de force of like what she's able to accomplish. But I'm curious, how was it to see the person who was cast to be you going through all of that? What was your take on that?
I stopped thinking about myself immediately. I was entirely mesmerized by, I agree with you, Imogen Poots is singular. And she made an entire environment and past, present, and future on her face. I could not believe how beautifully and deeply and profoundly her artistic portrayal of this woman character was. I think she made other actors look puny. Honestly, I hope something incredible keeps happening to her. And it was an uncensored kind of portrayal. Um, just this direct emotion and direct subjectivity and uncensored. I keep thinking of the uncensored body and the uncensored voice and what it would look like if you could see what a woman goes through when she's getting ready to make choices. Like when she's getting ready to up, or when she's getting ready to make a good choice, or when she's confused, or when she's contradicting herself. The things we're supposed to hide, she laid bare. And I can't use the word profound enough times. I just think she was incredible.
Yeah, seeing an actor who can give you so much when she's just thinking about something, like in between the dialogue, when she's processing and um, trying to come to conclusions or trying to make decisions. That is really a special kind of level of artistry that I think she's one of those few that can bring that. I'm very excited to see the film myself when it comes to SIFF. What has the reception of the film been like for you, kind of as the promotional, the marketing tour and everything has been going on, and you've been being able to see how critics are receiving it and how audiences are receiving it? Has there been anything that's surprised you?
These women are all in their 30s, and I call them the Spitfires. They encountered so many obstacles and so many very important men saying no to them. And they moved to Latvia and they lived there for many months to make this art. And they shipped their animals there because they love their animals. And they just would not take no for an answer. This is why I call them the Spitfires, because making this art the way they wanted to, with Kristen's vision and Imogen's acting, and the two of them creating this tour de force between them so that they could make the art any way they wanted to. And I am so happy for them and so thrilled that the reaction is what it is, because this was not meant to be consumable popcorn entertainment. This was meant to be a movie that happens to you and maybe reaches out to those people who feel like they're wrong or bad or invisible or on the edge of something. And I think there's no other greater success than when a piece of art can reach a whole tribe of people.
Lidia Yuknavitch is the author of The Chronology of Water, which has been adapted into a movie directed by Kristen Stewart. It will screen at SIFF on January 30th and February 1st. I'll be in one of those screenings for sure. Lidia, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you.
My complete pleasure to be here, and I hope I cross your path someday.
You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Dankman. Couple more options for screenings at the SIFF Film Center of Chronology of Water, February 12th and February 18th. SIFF.net, SIFF.net for all of the screenings. Thanks for listening to Soundside. Don't forget you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 FM Seattle at noon and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or anytime online at KUOW.org or on your favorite podcast app.